Hey everybody, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here. Don't forget to subscribe. Today, we are actually talking about an upcoming executive order from President Trump regarding cybersecurity. Now, I'm going to do my standard preamble. If you're a longtime listener or follower, you've heard me say this a million times, but cybersecurity is agnostic to politics, but we're definitely not immune from it. And obviously an executive order coming from a president, of any president, is probably going to have some kind of politics into it. So with that, for the record, the Trump administration has yet to release the text of the executive order, but they did release a fact sheet that is essentially going to be the framework for what this executive order is probably going to look like. And Tim Starks of Cyberscoop had a really concise write-up of this. I have actually read the entire fact sheet and have I'm going to be riffing off of Tim here, but I am going to be quoting him a bit. So with that, let's dive in, because quite frankly, we need to talk about this upcoming executive order. And so if you didn't know, President Trump put out this fact sheet this past Friday, June 6th, that the White House says promotes developing secure software, adopting the latest encryption protocols, securing the internet, and rolling back parts of two previous executive orders from former Presidents Biden and Obama. And I quote, "Cybersecurity is too important to be reduced to a mere political football," end quote. And quite frankly, I agree with that statement, whoever says it. So it's also, for the record, this fact sheet, and the text of this is criticizing President Biden for attempting to, and I quote, "sneak problematic and distracting issues into cybersecurity policy," end quote, in basically in an executive order just before President Biden left office. And before President Biden left office, he did basically put out some cybersecurity executive orders. I talked about those as well. Not to mention past executive orders for cybersecurity as well, many of which I actually agree with, including software development and some other stuff. So the current White House, the Trump White House, did not release the text of the document, but this fact sheet took on some of Trump's favorite political topics. Again, we're agnostic to politics, but not immune from it here. And essentially it said that basically they are going to prevent the misuse of sanctions, and I quote, "against domestic political opponents, and clarifying that sanctions do not apply to election-related activities," end quote, while also saying that it, quote, "refocuses artificial intelligence cybersecurity efforts towards identifying and managing vulnerabilities rather than censorship," end quote. And if you recall, within the first day or two of the Trump presidency, January 20th, 2025, then the new President Trump, I should say, signed an executive order rescinding the ethics in AI executive order that President Biden had. So it's unclear from this fact sheet what exactly are domestic political opponents the White House is talking about or alleging sanctions that have been used against. And congressional Republicans released a report claiming that the Biden administration used artificial intelligence to promote censorship, which this could be essentially what the executive order is referencing. That's speculation. We're not necessarily sure. But the fact sheet, and again, you can go to literally whitehouse.gov and read it. I quote the fact sheet again. "President Trump has made it clear that this administration will do what it takes to make America cyber secure, including focusing relentlessly on technological and organizational professionalism to improve the security and resilience of the nation's information systems and networks," end quote. And for the record, again, forgetting President Trump or Biden or any of them, securing the vast surface area for attack that the United States has is critical to the survival of the United States. National security really depends on this. And quite frankly, from the local, state, and even federal level, a lot of this has been really underfunded or not even really funded, depending on the level. And it's a huge problem that we have, and it's one that has been needed to be addressed for literally years, going back multiple presidents. So the upcoming order further directs federal action on post-quantum cryptography, as well as other steps to ensure, and I quote, "that Americans can know that their personal and home devices meet basic security engineering principles," end quote. This is actually something that President Biden was putting into effect during his presidency. Again, I've talked about this, I've written on this, regarding those software development standards for vulnerability management, for better security controls, like don't release 1 billion routers and the password is password and nobody changes the password. Like these kinds of things are very important. On top of this, it also, quote, "strips away inappropriate measures outside of core cybersecurity focus, including removing the mandate for U.S. government-issued digital IDs for illegal aliens that would have facilitated entitlement fraud and other abuse," end quote. And so again, we are moving globally to digital IDs and all of that. And so I'm not exactly sure how that is going to play out with this executive order. I'm waiting for more in-depth language to understand that. And once that executive order is fully released, I'm going to do an in-depth analysis of it. And again, this is essentially the segment here that is prepping us for that, to understand where we are going as a nation regarding national cybersecurity. Now, the administration basically has triggered bipartisan concern about cuts of the budget for Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, and that obviously is a huge thing. So the director of the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, has basically said they're going to refocus CISA, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, to focus on things like vulnerability and remove some of its duties and responsibilities that have historically been there. The first head of CISA, Chris Krebs, famously came out in the 2020 election said it was secure, and obviously President Trump has issued an executive order now, in Trump 2.0, his second administration, against Chris Krebs, and so this is a political football. Again, we're agnostic to politics if we're doing our jobs right, but we're definitely not immune from it. So we're going to see where this goes. I don't necessarily know where it's going to go. I was not a fan that when President Trump came in, he removed the ethics in AI and all of that. And I do think that both President Obama and President Biden, and to be fair, actually President Trump as well, because that's right, he was between the two. It's always weird. It's like Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump. So yes, Trump 1.0 also was good. IoT security bill at the very end, of his administration, plus some other stuff as well. But as long as we're moving the ball forward in cybersecurity and we're doing it, in a direct and honest way, I think it's a good thing, regardless of who the president is. So I say all of that to say, we're going to see what the text says, but this is what's coming. And if you're in cybersecurity, you should be reading these things like I am. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private, informed, and secure. Take care.